I plugged my mic in. I think it's all good. I just need a confirmation from you guys in the chat. People are saying they still can't hear me. Even with this plugged in, you guys still can't hear me? I'm going to ask you guys on the... okay, it says I'm good. I hate that there's this delay amongst the stream, but whatever. The important thing is you can hear me now. I totally fucked up with the intro, so I'm just going to start over again. Let's just pretend that all that didn't happen, and we'll start from scratch. Boom. Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and today is another live watch-along in the Godzilla series, and we are going to be doing... Well, saying that this is the weirdest of the Godzilla movies is quite the understatement, but this is Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Anyway, I'm not going to prolong this any further. If you guys are watching this in live in the chat, first of all, welcome. We got the regulars in here. Glad you could join us. And we had a little bit of an accident beforehand where my mic was not plugged in. And so it looks like we lost some viewers, but whatever. It's disappointing, but for those of you who are either lurking while watching this while not commenting, please consider joining in the chat and just commenting along. For those of you who are watching this in post, I encourage you to watch these live because it's better to watch these things live than in post when it's all done. He just did what the Men in Black did when they wipe our mind. Oh, neuralize you guys? Man, I wish. If I had a Men in Black neuralizer, I would abuse that thing to no end. I just wouldn't care. I would neuralize everyone for the tiniest little mistakes that I come up with. But anyway, we're just going to hop into the movie right now. Again, this is Godzilla vs. Hedorah. If you're watching this in post, the movie is available on both the Criterion Channel and HBO Max until the day they decide to just remove it completely like they're doing with all the DC movies and the Lego movies and Gone with the Wind. So watch it on HBO Max while you can. And... that being said, I'm just going to put my phone away because I keep getting notifications through Twitter and I do not want to pay attention to anything that's going on in the world for this next hour and a half. And we're just going to start the movie, and I am pushing the play button right now. You know, I read somewhere early in the chat, let's see if I can find it. Razorbike says, what would happen if this movie and House ever had a baby? I don't think we need to know that movie. Like, both movies are individually weird enough, as this opening music is indicating. This music is just absolutely absurd. But we don't need to know the... we don't need a movie that's as weird as House and Godzilla vs. Hedorah combined. And Gzilla100 says, if it is, it's called Godzilla the Planet Eater. Which, I find that an insult to this movie and House. Because this movie's not really good at all. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is not... There's nothing about that I would say is a good movie. But House is, like, legitimately good for its weirdness. The Hedorah eyes are just so bizarre. Oh, they actually subtitled this song. You know, after the last time with the opening song for All Monsters Attack, I didn't think they would subtitle this. But who knows? This is not. Oh, I guess they partially subtitled them. It looks like they partially subtitled the song. Bond opening. Um, yeah, this movie's really trying to be like a, or this opening at least is trying to be like a Bond opening. Yeah, as much as I applaud, as much as I love the Criterion collection, uh, the fact that they just partially subtitle this opening song is kind of lackluster, which is pretty disappointing. Also, sorry, long day. It's worth noting, like I said in the last watch along, um, the studio system with like actors being under contract ended in 1970. So you're not really going to see a whole lot of um, regular faces like you did with the first 10 Godzilla movies. Like these are all newer actors. And a lot of the older actors aren't under contract, so they don't have to do these movies as often as they did back in the day. Okay, so in this universe, this isn't like All Monsters Attack, uh, where Godzilla is like the figment of a kid's imagination. This is Godzilla really does exist, and for him and King Ghidorah to be made into a toy is really bizarre. Like Godzilla is a more hero of Earth by this point, but King Ghidorah, like it baffles my mind that they make a toy of King Ghidorah, but whatever. Yeah, if you mistaken a salamander for a fish, or maybe that's more a tadpole than a salamander. There you go, tadpole. If you mistaken a tadpole for a fish, then you've got more problems than anyone could solve. Yeah, the way this movie feels, you could tell it's a very different director. That's not Ishiro Honda or um, Jun Fukuda. Yeah, yeah, I just don't watch the English dubs anymore. Like especially like I could I could stomach some of them, but the ones that like Toho does is just like a cheapo international track from Hong Kong. That's like those I hate. Yeah, the music is very psychedelic, and points where it feels kind of haunting. But it's that like, uh, I guess it's I guess it's a trumpet or a trombone that acts as Godzilla's theme. That really goofy type music, um, like that just feels so out of place for this kind of movie, and it's just a terrible theme for Godzilla. Also, that's a decomposed goose. Ugh, like this. Like I know at this point the series was targeted towards kids, but was Yoshimitsu Banno wanting to scare the living daylights out of kids? Because there's a lot of horrifying stuff in this movie, considering how weird it is. But but also he's just not very subtle when it comes to delivering the message of how pollution is terrible. No, right guy, 2015. That's an obvious composite shot. I'm not watching this on HBO Max. I'm watching this through my Criterion channel set. I'm surprised none of the sludge. Um, I'm surprised none of the sludge like splashed all over him. But no, I'm watching this movie through the Criterion Blu-ray, and I actually have a portable Blu-ray player right next to me, kind of acting as a separate monitor. Yes, because he can obviously hear you when he's underwater. Good luck, kid. Um, because I'm worried if I watch these movies like through like an actual stream on my computer, then not only do I have to worry about just switching back and forth between the movie and you guys in the chat, but but I'm worried about how the connection will do. because because I don't want to watch this movie on a streaming service, and then all of a sudden the connection to stream to you guys is slowing down. Dude, it's coming right for you. Swim away. Yeah, your dad's gone, kid. I mean, when I get to Planet Eater, for one, that Planet Eater is probably gonna, or the anime trilogy. I'm sorry, whatever. It's all the same crap. When I get to those movies, that's gonna be tricky because I'm gonna have to watch them on Netflix, unless I can watch it through a TV or something. Or it's gonna be tricky. Yeah. And also, I might. Oh, I forgot how brutal that bruise is. They don't even question how the name came about, Hedorah. But what was it? Oh, yeah. Um, I might have for the anime trilogy. I might have to just make the exception and watch it dubbed because because I'm sorry, I'm so distracted, but I can't concentrate with this weird animation with Hedorah drinking out of a fuel a tanker boat and holding a dead whale in the other arm. Um, anyway, I might have to consider doing it, watching it dubbed, just so I can understand it a little better and maybe see if I missed anything. There's Godzilla. Yeah, not the. I don't know. Like, that music just does not fit with Godzilla. Yeah, those fish are dead. Yeah, this movie is just so bizarre. That's an obvious. I think that's a hand puppet off in the distance. And that's an actual suit. Is that the Son of Godzilla suit? Because it's really hard to tell. Either that or one of the suits from. Or the suit from Ebirah Horror of the Deep is just really starting to rot away. What do I think of the Arkham series? If you're talking about the video games, I think they're pretty cool. I've started to replay Arkham Asylum. Arkham City is my favorite, and Arkham Knight is good, but I hate the Batmobile segments, and I it just irritates me to no end every time Scarecrow pretty much gets on the TVs and mocks you. It's like, will you shut up? Can Captain Planet sue Godzilla? Uh, no. No, because this series was created. Captain Planet was created in 1990. So 11 years. No, not 11. No, that's way too soon. 19 years after this movie came out. it's hard to like with considering how bizarre this series got. It's hard to imagine that King Kong coexists in this universe. Yeah, if you look up Captain Planet, it was around long after. It originally aired in September of 1990 and ended in May of 1996. Yeah, this movie's not subtle at all in terms of its environmental message. But at least it's dedicated to its environmental message, and yeah, at least it's dedicated to the environmental message and doesn't like just throw it half-assedly like the Gamera movie that came out this year. Someone already mentioned this in the chat earlier before we got started, but Gamera versus Zigra came out this same year, and Zigra was the one who was mad at the Earth for polluting, and it's that case where you're like, wait, so the villain monster is the one that's mad at all the pollution, and Gamera's the one that tries to stop it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it totally doesn't make any sense that Gamera's pretty much fighting the fight against pollution. And it doesn't really play into the movie at all. And also that movie isn't as psychedelic or bizarre as this. That skin-tight jumpsuit has a seashell on her crotch. It should also be it should also be worth noting that this movie was in production while this movie was in production. Tomoyuki Tanaka was in the hospital a lot, so he wasn't as involved with this movie as he was with the others, which explains why this movie could just do so much that makes you question whether this is appropriate for kids, and it explains why after Tanaka saw this movie, he fired Yoshimitsu Banno and prevented him from making another movie at Toho. That's a very abrupt cut. It also should be worth noting that Hedorah's suit actor, I mentioned this in my review, but the suit actor who plays Hedorah is Ken Satsuma, who would later play Godzilla in the Heisei era, the movies in the 80s and 90s. Although in this movie he went by a different name. Let me see if I can find it. Um, can't seem to find his original name because it was around like he wasn't always Ken Satsuma at that time. Okay, they just Godzilla wasn't visible there. And some nice wire work there. Man, this and House would make a great double feature one night, because they're both weird movies in a very different type of weird. Because this movie is like it's weird, but it moves slowly, and it's just I don't know. It's like that mellow kind of weird. Whereas House is just so frantic and fast paced that it's just like you just kind of accept it for what it is. Like it's hard to describe. Like this movie's at the very least easy to describe as weird as it is. Godzilla versus a giant monster that feeds off of pollution and trash. Um, at the very least, like again, it's this movie's still easy to describe, even if it is bizarre. House is a movie that you can't. It's impossible to describe. And this movie gets very dark, also. There's some weird stuff that happens throughout, like in little snippets of House. It's not like, and even then, like, weird doesn't necessarily. When I say weird, I'm not necessarily talking about like all the very bizarre stuff that happens, the outlandish stuff. Like, as you're watching here, all the people wearing fish heads. And that's clearly alcohol doing it. That's not any kind of drug. But in House, when I say weird, House has just a lot of very bizarre filmmaking choices. The way it's even made as a film, it's weird. It's not so much all the weird supernatural stuff that happens. It's just the very bizarre way the director decided to shoot House. I wonder how they did that effect. Like, it looks like some real it looks like some weird tube, like some weird piece of I don't even know how to describe it. Like that's a convincing effect right there. That's horrible. That poor that poor cat. But you know, at the very least, a cat survived Hedorah's sludge, so that gives us a fighting chance. Okay, that compositing shot is just not. Like it's a weird depth of field because you can't really tell how far the monsters are. I would think they're far enough to where they could just get away. Or, as the main character says, let's get closer, which is not a good idea. But then again, he's probably high as a kite or drunk off his ass. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to go towards a giant monster battle. Like, if I were in their shoes, I am turning my car in the other direction and just getting out of here. Yes, so convince your high boyfriend that you should leave. Huh? Oh. Like, is that burning sludge? Because it's steaming. So bizarre. Yeah, it's funny, like, you say you love how Nakajima plays Godzilla, but you wouldn't even know that this was Nakajima in the role because it's so like the Godzilla here. I know it's the same Godzilla, but it just doesn't feel like by this point in the series, this Godzilla does not feel like the same Godzilla that we saw in the 60s or early 60s. Well, thank God they didn't get killed. And thank God there wasn't that much destruction. Someone said something else about Yoshimitsu Banno not like feeling sorry for him. Let me see if I can find that comment. Too bad Yoshimitsu Banno never directed another Godzilla film. Yeah, but he was also responsible for the MonsterVerse existing because he tried to make a short IMAX film that was pretty much Godzilla vs. Hedorah 2. But that project just evolved into the Godzilla that ended up being in the MonsterVerse. And he was an executive producer on both those Godzilla movies. So again, even though he didn't make a Godzilla movie himself, another one, uh, he was responsible for this new era of Godzilla in America. Oh, that's the relationship. I thought there was just some very. I thought that was just some random guy. So he's. So wait, what's the relationship? Uh, he's the scientist's brother or his wife's brother? Okay, that relationship that actually makes a lot more sense why those two are constantly around. It's a shame that now you know what, this is something I'll touch upon when we get to another special effects sequence. This was Roger Ebert's favorite Godzilla movie? What? What? I'm I'm confused. Okay. I'll look that up later cuz I kind of find that hard to believe. Unlike any life form from Earth. Unless he's not from Earth. Wait, what did the scientist just name the sludge again? Banno almost made a Shin Hedorah movie before he died. Uh, where's proof of that? Because I don't think I've never heard of that, and I don't think he was like very active around that time. Okay, I keep forgetting why there's this like space talk here. Horsehead Nebula. That kid is just not excited to be on the roller coaster. I like that, how Godzilla just pops up. He just teleports right there. Godzilla just teleports there, and then suddenly just disappears. And somehow nobody was able to recognize a giant radioactive lizard. Wikizilla. Is there an actual link to that, or because I don't really find Wikipedia or any type of Wikipedia sub site as legitimate, unless there's like a link to like an actual publication from a more respected news site. Because I saw in one video for All Monsters Attack, I saw a comment saying that Minya was voiced by Don Knotts from The Andy Griffith Show in the English dub. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. And so many people on there believe that comment. I'm like, no, unless there's actual like sources that back this up. Don't believe what you read on the internet. Yeah, here's where the movie gets pretty horrifying. Like, Hedorah just flies over them, and all of a sudden they're suffocating. You know, it's a shame that Teruyoshi, I mean, the Japanese film industry was at the period it was by the time this movie came out, because Teruyoshi Nakano could have done a lot, especially considering what we would see him do with the return of Godzilla. But the special effects sequences in this movie feel like they're behind 10 years. There's your problem. I love how Hedorah just quietly came into... Hedorah just quietly came out of nowhere and sucked up those cars. Yeah, a lot of the violence in this film does feel reminiscent of the original Godzilla, but there's just a lot of goofy moments to it that it doesn't even come close to that feeling of the original. Especially this moment here where goofy-eyed Hedorah is flying around and Godzilla's just doing this. like the human stuff is very creepy and psychedelic, and the monster stuff is pretty lighthearted. No, the tones just don't really... The tones don't fit all the time with this movie. You know, it's amazing that the mother and her students had enough time to get inside after Hedorah flew over them, but not this poor bastard. And not that poor bastard either. Yeah, somebody should really be watching out for that kid. Yeah, this is a bizarre moment where like the construction of this building just crumbles, but there's no sort of soundtrack at all. It's like in The Last Jedi where the Holdo maneuver doesn't even have any sound effects to it. You just watch the visuals happen. Huh! How far are we into this movie? Oh, we're past the halfway point. That's a clever transition, even if the perimeter that Hedorah caused rampages in is eerily identical to Two Faces. You know, somebody said we'll never get a Godzilla movie like this again. Maybe no. Maybe we'll never get a movie as bizarre as Godzilla versus Hedorah. But if you want to talk about a movie like where it's clear, like where it's clear the director had complete creative control. Shin Godzilla is probably the closest you get to, because that movie is Shin Godzilla is a one of a kind movie in this franchise. This movie, like, again, I keep saying it's so bizarre, but sorry, it truly is. And I said it wasn't that good at the beginning, but it's like, you know what? This movie is like, it's not really good as a Godzilla movie, but it's also not really that bad either. It's just that like that weird space in between. That's irresponsible. That's like trying to throw a big pre-coronavirus party. Like that's not gonna work out for anyone in the end. Oh, that's just a random picture. Is that a baby buried in sludge? Dude. Why is there a random skeleton? Like, what is happening with this movie? Did it just turn sepia? Oh, it looked like the color's gone. It looks like they sucked all the color out of this sequence. Man, this is the worst 420 celebration at UC Santa Cruz ever. Okay, there's the color. Where's all that where's all that equipment plugged into? They're out in the middle of a field. And where are they plugging in all that stuff? This is so bizarre. But you know what? Like, you know, like I say this is so bizarre, but minus that big bonfire in the middle of a grassy field, I've lived through moments like this. What the? Because I went to school at UC Santa Cruz, which is such a... It's basically a hippie school when you get right down to it. And there would just be these big random parties in the middle of the field. Oh, Sludge got into the fish tank. Okay, so knowing that that little boy is the nephew. Wait, does he have Godzilla senses all of a sudden? Seriously? So wait, did he send a telepathic message, or did you just hear Godzilla there? Yeah, what'd you all think was gonna happen, huh? That's cool that Hedorah is just completely black until he walks into the light. Just as a cool reveal there. Which, like I mentioned earlier, um, Hedorah's suit actor was Ken Satsuma, and there was a point in the set movie where he had to go through surgery, and they had to perform surgery while he was in the Hedorah suit, just because that suit is just so massive and so heavy. Man, if only Godzilla had some other allies that could help him fight this giant sludge monster. If only. That's disgusting. So the sludge doesn't really hit Godzilla in that eye, and yet he's now blinded in that one eye. Yeah, we'll just throw in a laser. Why not? Yeah, run in the opposite direction. Oh, he now stole Chris Evans' sweater from Knives Out. And now that kid is scarred for life. I would think everyone who survived, who didn't try to throw torches at Hedorah, would be screaming hysterically. Like you don't just casually watch your friends die or your boyfriend die. You just don't. You should be screaming nonstop. Rest in peace, Yukio. You died as you lived. Like an idiot getting too close to giant monsters. I mean, if you hate hippies, then you can't get a more anti-hippie movie than this movie. So Godzilla didn't actually punch Hedorah's eye. He just punched to the side. And that was enough to blind him. Oh, I know. After spending 2 years in 2 years at UC Santa Cruz, I've just grown more of appreciation for hippie culture. Like that suit is so heavy that there's no possible way he could just get up unless crew members just help him up. What? That is a weird sound effect for his roar. So wait, on his right hand, is that supposed to be Godzilla's bones? That his skin just peeled off? Or is that just supposed to be dried up sludge covering his hand? Because I'd believe that more than I would that that's his bone. Now, who are these guys? Like, what is the purpose of those people? What is the purpose of everything that's bizarre in this movie? And there goes Godzilla falling down another hole. Yeah, that's not the same Godzilla suit. Ew. Gross. And then Hedorah just laughs maniacally. This is such a... I'm just going to stop repeating myself because it's such a bizarre movie. Nice dodge. So we don't actually see the monsters, but Godzilla's atomic breath and Hedorah's lasers are just firing randomly. Sure. Yeah, you might want to get those two monsters out of the way before you decide to repair those. Huh! Well, thank God that tail just missed him. Wah wah! Yeah, I do not. I do not encourage the use of drugs. So I hope that was sarcasm there. Yeah, exactly, as Razorbyte says. Haven't you heard winners don't do drugs? Okay, those that cannot be Godzilla's bones because both his hands are screwed up. Like I'm thinking that's just dried up sludge. Yeah, I don't want anyone. Yeah, I'm gonna. Sorry, GZone100, but that comment you put up, I'm going to. I'm going to remove because I don't want you to. I don't want anyone to incriminate themselves on the live stream. Because I am not taking any chances considering how sketchy YouTube is with their policies, especially with the big cop controversy that happened late last year. We are in. We are at the 1 hour and 10-minute mark, so we've got about 15 minutes of this movie left. Without Godzilla, we wouldn't have Ultraman, right? Well, I mean, Ultraman did. Godzilla really kicked off Eiji Tsuburai's career, and without Eiji Tsuburaya, Ultraman wouldn't exist. So, yeah. Those feet. So did nobody give that pilot the order to not to just stop? This is so. This movie is just so weird. Like the lack of sound effects, just like the weird slow pace that it's moving at. And of course, just the way Hedorah looks is ridiculous. Yeah, Hedorah is glittering. I guess it's supposed to be like the slut, like the what you see in oil that makes it so shiny. Shiny! I never realized how shiny Hedorah is. It's a good thing Godzilla's atomic breath didn't blow a hole into that wall. Talk about convenient. Godzilla's coming in all dazed and confused. All right, Godzilla looks like Kermit the Frog in some of these shots. Hey yo. So this part coming up has always confused me, like, cause like it looks like Hedorah's pretty dead right there. Like it seemed like Hedorah was dead. So was there another Hedorah just inside of the Hedorah that Godzilla's been fighting this whole time? Because the skin is still there. But then again, if Hedorah wasn't alive, then we wouldn't have this moment here. Which, I'm just gonna stop talking. Actual scene, people. Yeah, so, for everyone who has never seen this movie before, this is an actual scene from an actual Godzilla movie. I think there's a moment that's more bizarre, more WTF than Godzilla flying. But we'll get to that moment a little later. I imagine that after Ken Satsuma had to go through this type of move in this Godzilla movie, it must have been so satisfying for him himself to actually do that as Godzilla to King Ghidorah and Batra. Like how Hedorah's arms just like wide apart as he's being lifted into the air and tossed back down. And because they need to get there that fast. Okay, now I'm trying to make more sense of that Hedorah like shell that got left behind. Since Hedorah resorted to his second form um, in that moment, because he was significantly smaller than he was for the past couple minutes. Then that why am I even trying to make sense of this? I'm just gonna stop before my brain melts. Again, so coincidental that his atomic breath just didn't destroy that building. I always notice that when he flies again, it's played way more seriously. Yeah, you can't do that. Like, after the first time you saw Godzilla fly, there's no way that can be played straight. It's such a weird moment here. Godzilla really is battle damaged in this movie. Like between being blinded in one eye, having his hand be burned, and apparent scar on his other eye. Like, it's cool to see Godzilla go through a fight and like I physically take damage. I still do not like this piece of music for Godzilla's theme, at least. There's a random shot of Mount Fuji. Again, I understand that this movie is supposed to be like a anti-pollution, has an anti-pollution message, but Yoshimitsu Banno does not understand what the word subtle means. He just really hits you over the head with a hammer with this message. Oh yeah, those two were still around. I don't quite understand the meaning of this showing that painting here. Will there be another? You know, it's funny considering that that was clearly a setup for a sequel. And Yoshimitsu Banno had a sequel in mind where it was pretty much Godzilla versus Hedorah 2, where, I mean, it's on, like, the whole story of it is on Toho Kingdom. Um, yeah, I'll read. This comes from Toho Kingdom. Born from chaotic and turbulent conditions in Africa, Hedorah emerges again as the smog monster lays siege to the continent. Godzilla arrives to once again do battle with the pollution-spawned being. A Godzilla movie set in Africa, that's kind of intriguing. But then Tomiyuki Tanaka came in and said, no. And, yeah, there was never, like, love it or hate it, Godzilla vs. Hedorah is definitely a bold movie. It's definitely a bold movie, and there would never be another Godzilla movie as unique as that until Shin Godzilla, in my opinion. But, yeah, thank you guys for joining. Tuesday, we are going to get back to a more traditional Godzilla movie, and as of right now, my least favorite in the entire Showa era, Godzilla vs. Gigan. So, we will get to that next Tuesday. Once again, I want to thank you all who tune in, watch these watch-alongs live. If you don't watch them live, then I encourage you to watch these live and interact with not only myself, but the rest of the people watching live. And if you are watching live but not commenting, please interact with us. And if you really like what I'm doing with the channel and you want to help support financially, you can always go over to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson. And for $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive watch-alongs that I want to do as patron exclusives. But if you cannot support the channel financially, then that's fine. Your YouTube subscriptions are good enough. And yeah, Tuesday will be Godzilla vs. Gigan. And until then, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.